Hi, I'm Wendy Yellen, and this is The Art of Transformation. Today we're going to talk about some signs that you may be suffering from the effects of trauma without realizing it. And there's also hope in this video. Before I continue, though, please, if you want to be notified of other videos as soon as they come up fresh and hot from the press, then please like and subscribe and we'll notify you right away. All right. So I'm going to assume that you are listening to this video because you have some concerns that you have suffered from trauma, or you know that you've had some trauma and you're wondering if some of the things that are happening to you right now are a result of that trauma, or maybe somebody said something to you and you just suspect something's off. And you probably have some trepidation or fear about what that means and what it would mean to work through it, and all the hard work that you would have to do and all the angst and suffering that you would have to go through. Maybe you're worried that you would have to go through the trauma again. And you're also probably concerned about some of the ways that you're acting that you suspect are related to the trauma. They don't feel comfortable, but maybe you're worried about having to go through something worse in order to deal with this, what you're noticing in yourself, something like that. So know that there is hope. There's a lot of hope actually in trauma. And what I mean by that is the way that we work with it, with Eidetics, with Eidetic imagery, you go beyond the trauma and you easily bring back, reconnect with the resources and potentials that you had that have been locked away in your body and in your psyche, probably since the trauma. Let's talk about a few of the emotions that you may be noticing and suffering from: shame, guilt, withdrawal, compartmentalization, and denial. And I will also be putting some resources at the bottom here if you want to look up some of these facts and some of this information. And then I'll be talking about it from a more personal perspective to you. What about shame? When you're suffering from shame, it colors everything. It says, it makes you feel like everything is about you. Everything negative is about you. And you also may feel that if you share what happened, you'll betray someone else. Maybe your family. Maybe you'll betray your religion. It may feel like I have a bad feeling about myself. Something bad happened, and it's somehow I was involved with it in a way that makes me a part of it. And so there's something wrong with me, and I better not talk to anybody about it, because not only is it bad about me, but it's also going to say something bad about them and maybe about my religion. Now, shame is often confused with guilt. We feel guilt when there was a wrongdoing and we feel remorseful, and maybe we want to make amends. Where we'll likely have an urge to admit guilt or talk with others about a situation that left us with guilty feelings, it's much less likely that we'll broadcast our shame. You're much less likely to talk about something when you feel shame about it. In fact, we'll likely conceal what we feel because shame does not make a distinction between an action and the person themselves. And this is a quote. You'll see the reference at the bottom. When you feel guilt, it feels like, okay, this happened. I was a part of it. Maybe I was a big part. It's my fault because I couldn't figure out what to do or how to stop it or how to prevent it, and that was my job. And maybe I got some good stuff out of it. That would be like guilt. So, for example, there's survivor's guilt with post-traumatic stress disorder if other people die from the same thing that you recover from, or other people died in a situation where you were saved. So, for example, in a 2018 study, researchers surveyed people who were receiving treatment from a traumatic stress clinic in the UK, and they found that 90% of participants who had survived an event when others died reported feelings of guilt. Even people who survive lung cancer, 55 to 63.9%, feel guilty for surviving. So you can see it has nothing to do with reasonable or making sense, but it feels very, very real. Now, what happens when we feel we have trauma and we don't want to talk about it, we don't want to deal with it? Then we may tend to withdraw in the world. I'm thinking about one of my clients who you can see in their body that you better not get too close because they're not doing this on purpose, and they're not doing it consciously, and I don't think they even know they're doing it. But there's something in their demeanor which says, don't get too close. I don't want to be open with you. Now, to express that in the body, there's a tightness that has to happen for other people to receive that message. So, and for my client, there's an incredible amount of tightness and leave me alone energy that is constructed minute by minute, which she has to maintain. You can imagine how much energy that takes. And then a sadness too, because that's really not what she wants to convey on all of her levels, but on one level it is. So you get that withdrawal and even leave me alone energy, and that's probably something you may be noticing in yourself. You may have had an inkling about it, and now, I'm really suggesting that if you've had an inkling about this, then look at it. Be honest with yourself, because this can be the beginning of something truly wonderful for you. If you start to deal with this and that armor starts to soften automatically as you deal with the trauma from a perspective of allowing what had to get repressed to come back up to the surface, all the good parts, which you may not even believe you have, but are definitely there. What about compartmentalization? This is also something that has to happen in the body and in the mind. And that would be, it happened, things are fine, leave me alone. Now you can feel even in my energy that there has to be a pushing away, and there has to be a kind of hardening, and there's definitely a lack of ability to let other people close. So you might find yourself with your very important, significant other or loved one where there's a sense, or maybe they've said to you, I can't get close, or you seem wooden, or you yourself feel locked. Again, it's in the body, it gets conveyed to other people, and it's also, of course, something that you feel. And then finally, there's denial. And denial is, yes, it happened. I don't want to talk about it. It happened. It doesn't matter. I know it's important, but don't you dare go there. Also, you can feel how this is a hardening of the body, a hardening of the spirit, a hardening of the soul. And it's very hard, I would say impossible, to allow love in and love out from that place, because there's a part of you that has to constantly defend against other people getting too close, because, in fact, you don't want to talk about this thing that happened, which is understandable because it's scary, but at the same time, you have to be on alert in case it comes in case somebody asks about it, in case you get triggered by something, which will happen. So in terms of the research and emotional avoidance in post-traumatic stress disorder, the research shows that people with PTSD often try to avoid or push away their emotions, both emotions about the trauma and emotions in general. You see, you can't just compartmentalize and push away certain emotions with certain people at certain times. It becomes a way of being and a way of protecting yourself. It's been found that trying to avoid feeling emotions can make some post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms worse, or even contribute to more PTSD symptoms after experiencing a traumatic event. So it makes things worse. Now, symptoms from PTSD manifest physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. It's very hard to connect with something greater when you feel like you have to hide. Makes sense, right? Because, and the mind, obviously, and the body, we're all one thing. It's not like you can do one thing with your mind and one thing with your body. It doesn't work, or you look like two different things. You feel like you're two different parts or two different things, two different pieces of yourself. Then, of course, sometimes people try to fix this feeling, this split feeling or feeling of being cut off from themselves or others, by drug use, alcohol use, overeating, things like that. There are also some physical symptoms that might come up, which is agitation, anxiety, startle reflexes, withdrawing from social situations or personal relationships, anger, rage and mood swings, a kind of numbness and being disconnected from reality and those around you, aches and pains with no other explanation, high blood pressure, a racing heart. Even diabetics find that their blood sugar levels are hard to control, and chronic health conditions related to stress. So that it sounds terrible, it sounds scary, and if this wakes you up and you realize, okay, something really is going on with me, and you really take in that when you deal with trauma in a respected and deep, meaningful way, like we do in Eidetics, then what happens on the other side, and often quite quickly, much quicker than you realize could happen, the person starts to open up and become more of herself. This happens all the time. This is what I expect for my clients. But there is that first step where you have to be willing. Hopefully, as you listen to what I was talking about in terms of shame, guilt, withdrawal, compartmentalization, and denial, if you recognize some of this in you and you can see how it's creating more difficulty in your life, and you sense that maybe now is the time to deal with it, then I really encourage you to begin. It's so much less difficult than is in our mind. And I'm thinking that you probably know from recent experience, if not long ago experience as well, that something can loom super, super, super large in your mind, like cleaning a closet, not to compare trauma to cleaning a closet, but like cleaning a closet. And then when you finally do it, it's really doesn't take all that long, and it wasn't nearly as hard as it loomed large in your mind. So again, I'm not comparing to a closet. What I'm talking about is the way things loom huge in the mind. And then when you actually take care of it, it isn't nearly as difficult or as sad or as painful as you might think. In fact, there's enormous amount of relief. My suggestion is, if anything about this video struck a chord, you might want to listen to it again, really take it in, be honest with yourself, and act on your sensitivity to what I'm saying and take charge so that you can actually move through this and really have a different life without the armor and the gates slamming shut between you and yourself and you and other people. And I hope that was really helpful, and I'll see you on our next video. Bye for now.